Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Interwoven podcast. I'm Adam Roxby, the Director of Communications here at The Weave. And in this episode we have a conversation between James Cracknell, our Director of Business Development, and the fine people at ReCreX, who are a digital innovation lab based in Colchester. But that doesn't do them justice because they are so much more. They're community focused, which is one of the reasons why you can see how we align with them so much. The Weave is working with them in our mission to combat founder burnout, which we know is a massive problem in the entrepreneurial space. This conversation also covers well-being and sophrology, which is something we're also very passionate about, as evidenced by the fact that we have Sandrine Singleton-Perrin as our Director of Community Wellbeing and also a sophrology practitioner. With that said, let's have a listen to this conversation before coming back afterwards to let you know how you can find out more.
Okay, so everybody, welcome to the Weave Interwoven podcast. It's the voice of North Essex startup community, and today we're absolutely delighted to be talking to two MBA students from the University of Essex who've come together to build a really exciting and valuable new business. There are two people there that we're eager to get involved and have a chat with. We've also been joined today, I'm delighted to say, by Sandrine Singleton-Perrin, who is our Director of Community Wellbeing. When we're starting to talk about this work and the projects and what these guys are all up to, it's important to understand that we're working with them as well. It's a joint effort. This is about our collaboration. It's about the way that we want things to develop within the region, and it's really important. Without further ado, I will introduce you to Tulu and Onome, and both of them, as I say, from an MBA side. Starting over with Onome, if you'd just like to introduce yourself and just say hello to everybody, and maybe just one or two kind of sentences just to introduce yourself to us.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Onome. I'm one of the co-founders of ReCreX, and we're building something really exciting that we hope to talk to you about today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Tulu?
Hi everyone, it's nice to be here. My name is Tulu, and I'm also one of the co-founders of ReCreX, and I'm really excited to be here, and we're really looking forward to sharing all the plans we have with you today. Thank you for having us.
No problem at all. And just for good order, my name is James Cracknell. I am co-founder of The Weave. I work at the University of Essex as an entrepreneur in residence and a mentor to students, but also facilitator. And with myself and Sandrine and Adam and our small team of people, we're trying to bring together that startup community vibe, that whole kind of idea of what we can connect and who we can put together to make things happen within the region. So let's start out with a little bit about the background of ReCreX, and let's think about maybe how the idea percolated through. Where did it originate from? Was it something that you guys kind of discussed as you were doing your MBA, or was it completely independent? Just talk us a bit to Onome, if you'd like to start with that one.
Okay. So the idea for ReCreX, it was just as a start conversation we had during the MBA. So when we started the MBA, we were faced with a lot of projects, and a lot of our projects centered on small businesses. And for me personally, I've always been passionate about helping small businesses, and so I had always tried to tailor my project to small businesses and how I could help. Similarly, I think Tulu was also doing the same. And for people that had background in finance, a lot of what we were thinking about was more finance oriented. Okay, building a way to connect maybe small businesses with the financing that they need, considering that that's one of the major challenges that they face, financing. But as we push further, we started to see that aside financing, there are things that are important, because as a small business owner, when you want to approach investors, they will typically want to see what you're trying to do, at least maybe an MVP version or a prototype version. And a lot of people struggle with that because you can't even access the finance to even help you do that, to show the investors. So with that in mind, we went, I think we had a coffee date just in town center here, and basically just had the first conversation to basically flesh out how can we help businesses? How can we help them not just raise finance, regressing, but how can we help them fundamentally grow? And that was where the idea for Regress came about. We could do something in a way that help businesses build their ideas, bring it out to the point of maybe the MVP level or the point of the prototype that they can show people, validate what they're trying to do. And so we thought about Regress. However, on the flip side, we are thinking, how can we make this happen? Because this obviously is very cost intensive. And there's the flip side of a lot of people that are like us, MBA graduates from various MSc programs looking to get into professional work back. For some of them, they're going for the first time. For some of us, we are transitioning back into our professional career. And a lot of us wanted to do something different. Like I mentioned, we had like start point in finance and we had major experience working in the banking sector, but we wanted to transit that sector. So people wanted to get in tech, people wanted to develop various technical skills to even build their current career. And then they have challenges. So I've learned it, I've maybe gone to a boot camp, or I even did it in school, wrote a project about it, but I really do not understand how to implement what I've learned. And so we're like, why not use these people to help these other sides of people? And that's where the idea for Repress came about.
Excellent. Tulu, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I'm going to add to that. I think at some point during the period when we were trying to think about this, I was also in a boot camp at that point. And one of the major things that we faced was that it was more of case studies, right? We were not applying the skills or, the learnings on real life projects. And it was something that, I thought was going to happen. And then I spoke to Onome about it and I was like, you know what? I think what we need to do differently is getting the real life projects where you're working in a company, you're working with a group of people, and you can then put those learnings into practice and then build your portfolio from there, and I think that's the way it all started. And then we started to, flesh out the ideas, speaking to Excess Startup. We were like our advisors, at the end of the day. And then we came up with something and we started to develop the plan, write up everything, and and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
it's pretty exciting to be here. And we're looking forward to seeing what the future really holds for us, going forward. And everyone has been supportive, really and truly. I know we spoke to you also at some point in our journey.
We did.
We started to when we were trying to, flesh out this idea. And everyone has been really, really supportive. So that's something that's been good. And I'm glad that, we're part of this. So thank you.
Oh, that's all right. That's no problem. We're delighted that you are. I think it's interesting, isn't it, about that idea of working on case studies and working on real world problems, because a lot of what we say, for instance, we've done with the iTeens program when we've delivered there down at the university, has been involved with real world problems because they create something. But in your kind of experience, this idea of building out the Recreax, and you've been working, I believe, with a number of different organizations, creating different sort of prototypes and ideas and to seeing how it's worked. What has been that significant value of including real businesses with challenges into your thinking? How has it helped you to develop your value proposition?
Okay. I think the first bit when we decided to take up pilot projects and we got involved with a lot of businesses, the first thing it did for us is it helped us streamline our processes. So when we started, we had the idea of, we're going to do this, do that, do this. But like in every real life situation, things are different from the way you think it will be. And so having to work with various different businesses gave us the opportunity to see how the different things would apply to different scenarios and how we can tweak our processes to suit those scenarios. And likewise, we've been able to then develop like a program plan that guides the project execution for businesses. Then for the businesses, what I've seen happen is that a lot of the people we took up for pilot, especially the first few projects, they have had this idea for a long time and they have actually just been waiting to execute, or they've been having that problem with execution, maybe resource constraints, maybe the people that they got in to help and not actually doing what they're meant to do. And we saw how in the space of 4 months, something that went from literally conversation was now physical we could touch, we could see it, and basically interact with it and see how it was happening. So yeah, that particular value that we have given, to me, it transcends even the idea that we are talking about, because sometimes when I'm talking about request, I no longer speak about just our project. I'm like, oh, we have done this, we have done that, we have done this. It's really exciting. Yeah.
Tula, if you could sort of bring all of that together in a kind of almost a mission statement around Recreates, what would that be for you? How would you, if I was just to say to you, articulate to me in a very short period of time that passion and that enthusiasm, how would you crystallize it?
So I would just say basically what we're trying to do is trying to bridge the gap, between small businesses or startups in need of tech talents, right? Or, an individual is trying to, looking to gain hands-on experience. I think that's the way I would try to sum it up, really. Because what we've also realized, she touched on the businesses. What we also realized is that most of the tech talents that we're working with, more often than not, they need this experience, to build their portfolios, right? We've seen that when they do, when they come onto when they apply to the project, we look at the CVs. We've seen that it's not properly tailored or it's not really aligned. What we've done further is that we would interview them, so we see the value in what they try to give us, and then when we interview them, we put them on this project. We start to work with them to shape them, to make them understand collaboration, teamwork, and communication is what would also help you, in the real life sense of it. And it's been really good working with them and bringing the businesses together to work with them. So yeah,
I think when Sandrine and I started to work with you, we were blown away by the size of the groups and the passion and enthusiasm that was kind of evident within all of that. And I think you touched on that challenge as well of how do we become valuable to the talent as much as how do we become valuable to the businesses, and that platform model of where do we start, how do we grow one side of the platform versus the other side so that we're actually adding value to both elements. So did you originally meet that challenge in your mind? Where did you feel the right space was to start building that? Was it with the talent and the universities, or was it the outreach and trying to find the businesses?
So when we started, I think the first thing first was to start with securing talent, because it's one thing to get on the project and we need to onboard talent. And you remember when I said our initial project drove us to actually creating a program plan? That was because we discovered that at least there needs to be a space to onboard talent onto a project rather than just having everyone start, talents apply, we just accept and they get started. We found that was a bit flawed, and we needed to give it an application timeline. And so having that in place, it helped us to basically guide the whole process from application and also getting onto the project and starting the whole conversation on how the project was meant to go. But one other thing that we have been able to discover with this whole process is working with different individuals meant that you also needed to be constantly mentoring them, constantly introducing them to things that they're not really familiar with. So some people can be really good in their skill and they are able to execute well, but communication is a problem. Collaborating with their colleagues is a problem. They work better alone. And we've seen the platform help transition talent that started from being very shy to speak up in meetings to actually engaging, actually presenting what they've done. And so all those things together have been something that have been, I think, transformative in the whole process of getting it started. So as we move further, the goal is for us to keep getting the talents to the point where not just they have built projects, they have worked with businesses, but they on their own can stand and basically showcase their brand to basically get them something that is better than where they currently are. So that's the goal, to transition them from point A to point B. Yeah.
Just say, I'm quite impressed of being part of your Slack community. The constant communication, the engagement, the encouraging, messages, and that really brings people together. And I just think you do that on a consistent basis. I think it's really quite impressive. Yeah.
Thank you.
certainly something I think that we, from the Weave's perspective, that we can learn from. So I think that's something that we're obviously trying hard to find ways of keeping the community alive and engaged. And I think where we come to it from, whether it's doing podcasts or whether it's doing just content or whether it's just simply asking questions and getting stuff out there, I think that's really important. So let's just think about where RecreX wants to be in 5 years' time. All right, if you can project yourself out into that particular space, where do you what does it feel like for you, that kind of work environment? What do you feel as a team, as founders? What does that whole kind of going to work experience feel like for you in 5 years' time?
Okay, I think we're going to have two parts of this. I'm going to speak a little bit on it and Tulu would take up. So in 5 years' time, the hope is for us to have global presence, not just within the UK, but presence in Nigeria, Africa, like Ghana, and places like the US, Canada, and having presence in those regions. And the reason why we say that is within our pilot phase, we've seen interest from not just people within this region. It's been from different angles, and we want to capitalize on that. So for us, in 5 years' time, we want to have global presence in these places. We also want to have accomplished and impacted at least 100 projects, at least 100 businesses. So we want to say, oh yeah, we're part of the growth of this particular business. We're the part of the growth of at least 5,000 individuals that have transitioned from this point to this point. I want us to have that big alumni of not just businesses, but also talent. And in the future, the hope is to have like a venture studio where we can collaborate with people like yourself to basically have people that have ideas to basically just come work and build your ideas and see if it's something that we can take up. Maybe show it to a couple of angel investors and see if it's something that is good enough to be done. And if it's good enough to be done, we'll run with it and have people on board to basically manage those things. Yeah, that's the goal.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so just to write on that, also, I think the impact is what is really key for us. It's not even about the money. I think it's the impact, saying that, people have benefited from this, platform. Even as of now, you get people saying, oh, you know what you guys are really doing is amazing. And that's the joy for us. I don't think it's anything else. We find fulfillment in that. And we want to keep up with that. We want to always see that people are sort of like benefiting from this platform. I think the major thing that would be key for me and going forward would be the success stories where we see that, people are then getting jobs, people are getting employed from being on the project, they've taken out learnings from us and they've gotten like real jobs, because that's the major thing. We want to make them marketable. We want to get them to that point where, recruiters see them and they're like, oh, they're a product of RecreX, right? And they want them to work with them. So that's the major joy for me, really, is that impact, the social impact. Yeah. So thank you.
No problem. I think that's excellent. And I think, that brings us basically into that world of what we all want to be accountable for to achieve in that regard. And so from our perspective, we try to measure that level of engagement, the outcomes, create those case studies, create that kind of idea of watching people and develop them. We don't say that we're crucial, but we say that we're a part of that journey. And I think, like you say, if they've got a piece of technology that's something that at the end of the day they would never have potentially have had access to through other routes, I think it opens up that whole kind of world of opportunity for people to really improve on what they can impact. Okay, well, that kind of brings us neatly round just to talk a little bit about what we got involved with you guys. I'd like to hand over now just to Sandrine, really, to introduce our project and what our kind of ideas were in the beginning, and really just sort of kind of think about that, and then ultimately, why you said yes for our project, what that appealed to you in that regard, and then secondly, what once we got to that MVP stage, what would be potentially the kind of longer term aspirations of working together, doing different things together, that kind of stuff going forward. So Sandrine, can you just sort of kind of talk us through about the project that the Weave sort of kind of constructed, if you like, and why it's important to you and to us, obviously.
Okay, so the idea that we put up to you, to RecreX, was setting up, creating a wellness wellbeing app that would be a kind of go-to for founders and entrepreneurs to take care and look after their own well-being. So something that would be realistic, something that be just on hand. So the idea is to give like things that people can do, little practices, tips, and also a way to measure and assess and monitor their well-being, over time. So we had all these nice, and it's important because we know that entrepreneurs and founders suffer from burnout. That's a real big problem. And so the idea is how we can help them just avoid that and keep thriving and growing their businesses. So a solution focused, something practical, realistic, that people can actually go to and think, yeah, this is it. This is a kind of go to and think, yeah, this is it. This is a kind of for them, and that's what we presented to you, and that hopefully that we're going to produce together, which is really exciting. So from my part, yeah, it's important and exciting because it's something I've never done, so I've got no idea, and James will tell you, absolutely hopeless with technology. So I am so pleased to have you on board, and when I see how you kind of work and function, it gives me a lot of confidence. So tell us about how you approach that kind of project from your side.
Okay, I'm going to start with what actually interests us with the project. So as two people that decided to take on this project, and I would say it's a bit massive because it takes a lot from us. So seeing someone helping do things that would help us, because we have actually struggled. There are times where we are at that point where we are really exhausted, but we need to keep going. And we need to keep going because we have a vision of where we want to get to, and we want to just keep moving. And another thing that we try to do is pace ourselves to get there. So seeing that whole idea, speaking about helping founders identify that they're heading towards burnout, helping founders identify tips and strategies to basically help get them out of that space. It was something that was very interesting to me. It was something that was very interesting to Tulu. And we looked at it and said, yeah, we had to be part of this. And I think secondly, as people that are passionate about businesses, aside our own personal issues that we've had in terms of transitioning from like full corporate employment to running a business and also working to basically put everything together. We also think that this particular idea would help other people to basically help them transition from where they are currently, because sometimes it might not even be the money that is the problem of the founder. It might be the stress of everything. I have the money, but the people, managing people is a lot. The people, it's getting on here. Or it's even trying to conceive the processes. How do I think of putting A and B together to make it maybe a straight line or something? And so it gives them a lot of pressure, and seeing someone coming up with a way to relieve that pressure, I believe it's something that, if not just us, somebody else would grab and say, yeah, I want to be part of this. And so, yeah, that's the reason why we decided to take it up.
I think for me, it's also very unique. I don't think there's anything like that right now. And I think, you guys are doing like the first move advantage right now. So it's good that we're part of it. I'm not sure there's anyone doing something like this for founders in particular. And I know even when I spoke to a lot of the talent, they were like really excited to say that, oh no, you know what, they want to really be a part of this. So that's something, it was a very unique idea, if I might say so. So yeah.
Thank you. And I think that the idea, like you say, there's two things. It came to me and it came to Sandrine because one, where communities are all about nurturing and caring, and sometimes we won't use the word community to actually talk about customers. And you get those annoying adverts where they say join our community, and all you're thinking of is no, just become a customer. And you kind of think, and that's not what we really wanted. We actually wanted to say, no, this is a real community where we're thinking about nurturing, thinking about care, thinking about that. And that's why when I actually sort of kind of met Sandrine down at the Essex Startups team, we did an event down there, and she did a piece of her work around sophrology. And to be honest, I thought it was all about sofas, and I was half expecting to be lying on my back with my feet up and doing a bit of that advert. And I thought, no, actually, this is not. Yeah, no, quite the opposite. And when I think we sat down and we did that team exercise, and Sandrine took us through that communication process, the visualization using language that was very visual, very natural language that led to lots of new opportunities. And there was a really empowering piece for me, which was when we were all sitting around and she was talking about teams and she was talking about roots. And she, and I don't want to I'm just coming in from my angle. I'm not trying to interpret what Sandrine does, but from my perspective, it was all about this idea of giving and receiving. And roots are very much about absorbing nutrients as well as creating foundations, building those. And it was a really strong, powerful metaphor within the team and where those roots were going to each individual member. So it kind of opened up that whole idea of sophrology. And I thought, this is great. So I kind of reached out to Sandrine and she very kindly said, yes, she was quite interested in looking and working and developing the community side. So that was our kind of process. But from personal perspective, when I got involved in a little bit of investing, when I started sort of kind of within the region, I clearly kind of got my fingers burnt when I worked with a particular founder, and they hit the buffers, and it wasn't clear, and it wasn't clear by any stretch of the imagination that was where they were. And it was just a capitulation, and it just literally had a knock-on effect of the business collapsed, the money went, their mental health went, the whole kind of collapse within that, and it was not recognizable, or at least it potentially was, but not the significance of it. So I think when we looked at the app and we thought about, is there a way that we can actually identify some of the stresses that business owners and founders feel, that this was a big part of that. If we can create personalized benchmarks eventually for people, so this is your normal existence, and then when you're starting to get stressed, you're sleeping worse, you're eating poorly, you're drinking too much, you're doing all of these relevant bits, your communication's poor, you're not doing this, that, and the other, all of that kind of stuff adds up, and it can actually then create an early warning sign that says, actually, what you really need to do is speak to a mentor or find somebody within your community that you can vent to, that you can get some resources, that you can do all of that stuff. And that was really what we were aiming at when we were thinking about this project. And I'm delighted that it resonated with you guys. And I'm delighted it's resonated with your team. And I think it's a really crucial thing. Whether it's unique or not, I think it's specifically quite unique for founders. And for that, I think there's a lot of health and wellbeing apps on the marketplace, some of which are better than others. But I think without a shadow of a doubt, when it was directed towards founders, and even from that micro investment position I had, I can imagine if you're an investor and you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds invested in businesses, and all of a sudden your business, your founders, your team, or people, somebody within the team, it doesn't have to be the CEO or the CEO, it could be anybody within the team, starts to feel that pressure and capitulate, then at that particular point, right, they're really, you're at risk of losing large, amounts of money. So a warning signal in that regard is something I think of huge value. And we hope that project, you guys are absolutely invested in it. So we're hopeful that we can move it forward. Initially, it's going to be quite vanilla. And I think that's important as well. It's because we're of the view of get it out there, get it in people's hands, get people using it. Eventually, we would like that AI and machine learning content, something in that particular space, because that will then lead to personalization en masse. So people will get that sense of not just that benchmark and where they are, but the constant monitoring about maybe some of those stresses. So I think that's where the potential of it goes, which is really, again, very exciting. On that score, this is always, I think, when you're in collaboration with people, there's always a learning project about each other's businesses. And this is part of the conversation anyway. I wanted to learn more about your business, and hopefully you can learn a little bit more about what we're trying to achieve within the week. But if we were just to say, what have you learned to date about this particular project and its significance to you and to that? We've covered a little bit of that, but also potentially what you've learned about us as a business, and maybe perhaps share some of those thoughts, and we can perhaps share some of the same thoughts back to you as well.
I think for me personally, the first time I had sophrology, so I think That's like an enlightening process. And for someone that likes to absorb information, when I heard about it, I'm like, oh, I need to Google what this is to basically understand a little bit more about it. So that was a first for me. And secondly, another thing I learned is as a community that you are building, which is something similar to what we are doing, but for a different niche, you have infused a lot of help, a lot of resources to help you grow. And so seeing that basically is something that to us is really important. So having resources that are available, I think a lot of times I get notification on my app, or James just posted something, or I can check, I'm seeing like links to how to maybe link up with investors and all those things. And I'm thinking all these are very important, and a lot of people do not know how to access it. And so that community about helping people, helping businesses, helping potential what's it called, entrepreneur move from that particular stage where they are to basically figuring out how they can move forward. And I think another thing that also piqued my interest was one of the recent posts that you guys did on a challenge to basically build, I think, either the user persona. So when I saw that, I'm like, for us that went to the MBA, we were able to do a lot of these things because we knew how to do them, maybe from previous experience and also from the MBA program, because we had to do them for a lot of our projects. But there are a lot of business owners that basically just come to say, well, I have an idea, don't know where to move forward. And I see the weave as something that moves them from that point of no knowledge to a point of, okay, I know enough to even start actualizing what I'm trying to do. And that personally for me is the thing that I like with the weave community and how you guys have run the business so far.
Thank you very much indeed. It's very kind. Thank you. Tulu, do you want to say anything, add to that? Or
Yeah, I think Onome has said everything that I would have loved to say. But the major thing that stood out for me is the nurturing bit, because you don't only nurture your own community members, you also nurture and mentor other people. We've known you for a very long time, even while in MBA classes and things. Also the partnership you have with Excess Startup. So I think that's one thing that has stood out for me. I think a lot of people that become entrepreneurs have some sort of connection with the weave.
Yeah.
And I think that's
yeah, she's really right.
Yeah. And I'm like, that is actually really good, and that actually stands out, trying to always impact people from everywhere. I think that's one thing that I love about the weave, and you and James in particular, you are always willing to help everyone. You're always willing to push people, to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I think that nurturing aspect is what really draws me into the weave. You ask everybody, they say, oh yeah, they know James. Everyone knows James. So.
I think just to add to what you said, I went for an event recently. It was a founders event.
Very sure.
Entrepreneurs. So I was speaking with a lady. She runs a business, but it's targeted to young people, helping them build businesses. Yeah. And she was like, "Oh, do you know James?" Because I was asking her to follow me on LinkedIn. We are following on LinkedIn, and she's like, "Oh, you're connected with James? Do you know James?" I'm like, "Yeah." Do you know James? She's like, "Yeah."
That question wasn't there to solicit all of that kind of stuff, but thank you very much indeed for
Forget about James Bond. It's James Cracknell, isn't it, James?
No, yes.
Right, okay, moving on. Right. We always use the analogy of the hamster wheel and getting people off the hamster wheel, because that's where burnout happens, where it just constantly keeps going round and round and round and you just don't get off. So I think that actually when we think about the weave, that's what we try to do. But from my point, and I'll go to Sandrine after learning about you guys, I think first and foremost, there's your passion and enthusiasm shines through in everything you're doing within this. But I think from a practical and technical thing, I think there is real emphasis in bringing and that enthusiasm for young talent pool that you're nurturing as well. And you are absolutely right in giving them the best opportunity to grow themselves and to grow where they're going. And I think that's something something which is hugely valuable in everything you're doing. And I had a conversation not that long ago with a guy down in Kent who's very much involved in the creative industry, and he comes from the industry itself. So he's a creative, he runs that particular business, but he's really interested in how to nurture talent within that particular industry and develop those skills and make them relevant, because the industry is moving at such a pace going forward. Sandrine, have you got anything to add for that?
Oh, just to say, yeah, the nurture element is definitely, when you were talking about how you take your talent from one place to the next and, making sure they're all right and they grow. I think that's great. And the last thing I wanted to say is, for me, and that's new, is this collaboration between us, with different talents. And I think it's very important to know that we don't have to be good at everything. We can be good at something, because you're going to be, the business of technology. And I think what we're going to produce together as a collaboration is going to be great. Kind of merging our talents. And that's, for me, that's what is exciting.
They really are a lovely group of people, and I'm so pleased that we're working with them to make something that will hopefully help so many people in our community. Just a quick mention, if you want to be on the podcast and tell people of our region about you and your business, if you want to have a community that supports you, and if you want a place to learn and develop as a business owner, then simply join our community by visiting wearetheweave.co.uk. I've been Adam Roxby, Director of Communications, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the community really soon. Bye for now.